burn blocks numbered. 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Hoping to get them all.
I'd love to, but I don't think we have enough people, and
It's the only way I can get you more people to help you burn them out so quick.
yeah. Bob, I gave you a burn plan already. There's a burn plan for each one of you.
Am I going to keep this one? You're going to take it
That's
away?
yours, yeah. Well,
I've
unless
got
you
yours.
unless you have records on it that I need.
Okay. Keep taking these recipes.
That
And
one, Jason?
A fuel reduction wildlife burn. So I'm going to try. There's a lot of leaf litter. There's a lot of 1 and 10 hour fuels down on the ground, just branches that are falling out of the trees. There's a lot of vegetation growing up. To save yourself from being burned over, get on one of these lines and run out to that field. That is called a safety zone. That zone is not going to burn. So the escape routes will be these blown lines, and that will be a safety zone out there. I don't anticipate that, but I like to think of the contingencies. So we're going to be burning interior mostly. This is an exterior line. If the fire gets across this line, this is somebody else's property. That happening to the holders on this line. It's a kind of a green line. These fire flaps are one of the best tools for slowing a fire down in the grass. And it's not something you slap, it's something you drag along and you smother the fire. So when we're firing along this line, this is probably one of the best holding tools we're going to have.
right here.
Taking pictures, honey. On that block over there. There we go. What the weather was, what the expected fire behavior was, what our contingencies were, what kind of hazards we may run into. I told you about the burn units, what the burn sequence was going to be, what the ignition pattern was going to be, and then we lit a test fire, and then we got on our way. So that's what I told you. What you were doing, and what Bob was doing. And I had bad communication with Bob. I'd call him and I couldn't reach him. He couldn't respond to me. So a lot of times Bob was a loose ball. I had to keep in the back of my mind, Bob smoked in somewhere because I can't contact him, and keep you guys doing what you need to do. So it's hard for me to step back when I see what
You know what you said in your last one?
We started firing that line again. Kevin went ahead with the leaf blower and blew down that mound of debris that I had blown when we were putting in the line. That helped out a lot. But I think that,
Well, here's some insight for you.
okay,
Two
expected
things.
to get at least 3 of the units done today. And then having to fight the slop over is interesting. The whole time with the leaf blower, I could just feel my heart going like as fast as it could. I kept trying to slow my breathing down, and it just wasn't happening. Let's see.
It definitely makes the day harder because your energy spikes then and you still have to work the rest of the day.
That little lunch break I took after we got off today felt better. Let's see. I guess the only other thing would be suggestions. Are these like deep trails not wide enough? Would you widen them in the future as fire breaks? To prevent what happened today from happening?
it'll take me a while to evaluate that myself. But I'm thinking Nathan probably hit him. I'm thinking initially that I should have had a holder just right behind the igniter to watch for stuff like that. Because if we had had a holder right there, we could have caught the slop over. And then the slop overs
Immediately.
were pretty small.
Yeah.
I mean, we get really excited and our heart rate gets up. But, you know, it was all interior.
Great training. Great training.
And I don't like slop overs. But because it sucked a lot of our time. And like you said, we could have gotten it if that hadn't sucked so much of our time. But I'm going to be thinking about that for a while. But I think my initial impression is I should have had a holder. And Bob mentioned the problem. You know, there's a lot of heat immediately when we're igniting that line, and there's a lot of smoke. So that holder has to put up with a lot of stuff. But I think if we'd had a holder there, we could have. I think that would have been. To answer your question, I think that the width of that line is okay.
Because
Now-
on the backside it was good. Or at least
Well,
more.
I'm gonna tell you why in a minute.
The fire, before we got down to that corner down there on that back line, the fire had burned up to it and had gone out. So yeah, it was, that line was sufficient, even though it was a ragged line, it worked. And then, you know, after
We had predicted south winds, right?
southwest,
Southwest, coming from the southwest. Okay. It surprised me how much smoke was on this line where it slopped over. And I was stuck in there. I couldn't see the road even in the smoke. And that surprised me that there was that much smoke coming. It's kind of like it shifted, and I think maybe the wind picked up. Yeah, but the slop over there took up so much of our time that we could have done something else.
But it's one of those things, Brett. What should I have done?
you did just
What I had to do?
yeah.
Because
you
I
did.
didn't have any equipment other than a torch,
You can put a whole lot of fire out with a torch.
and I didn't know appropriately how to use the rake. I was using the flapper, but look, here's what happened to the flapper. Like, it got curled, and that looks not right. So did I not use it right? I mean, I was using it like this.
That's okay.
But then earlier, I heard Kevin say, "Can't fight the fire, in the fire." And I was like, maybe that's a country song. But she was a rough start. I was like, oh, we are in it.
You're talking swap over.
Yeah, those slurry slop over areas were just like, it spread really fast. And I just was not expecting that. I wonder if it would have been helpful to have somebody with a flapper or a rake behind us as we were doing our, I just don't know, you know, as we were going down, because we didn't have really other stopovers. There's something about this area where the wind was, and I don't know.
It got up to speed and carried over.
And Casey and I, well, Casey called for some help, and I passed Red. I felt awful passing Red. Red was like, I could use some help, and I was like, oh, Casey asked for help.
It was to be expected. You did a good job explaining. I mean, very thorough. Have much critique on that end. Like you said, I don't have a lot of experience, and you gave me more than I needed to go off of. Comparing it to last week, I think it was definitely a different experience. Things seemed like they were ready to burn more, so that was interesting, having a little flop over. I guess it's good to know in those moments when that happens what to do, because you were trying to give me a crash course while it was happening. So I guess
Yeah.
maybe a little class on that or something.
In the event of.
Right. And then Casey comes in with a leaf blower, and you're like, that is working a lot better than what I'm doing right now. But that was new. I think that's just to be expected with the experience. There's just always going to be variables. Like last week, you cut it because the humidity and all that, and it just wasn't worth it to keep going. So there's just always going to be variables, and you sort of got to roll with it, I guess.
But actually, based on what I told you, what did you expect? What actually happened? And then the most important thing for me is, how can I improve my briefing? How can I improve my preparation for you guys to come out here and do this work? Now, we did this in Murray County, and it turned out to be what an old boss of mine called a love fest. Yeah, I don't need people to say this was fun, and I need you to take a critical look at it and help me out. Plans were, what the weather was, what the expected fire behavior was, what our contingencies were, what kind of hazards we may run into. I told you about the burn units, what the burn sequence was going to be, what the ignition pattern was going to be. And then we lit a test fire, and then we got on our way. So that's what I told you.